All right, all right, all right. Oh, what's going on now? What is happening now? All right, all right, all right. Sorry about that. There's a little bit of technical difficulties. At first, the laptop here didn't want to spool up to connect to you guys, and then I realized that when we finally did connect, the the camera wasn't fully connected with the HDMI cable. How you guys doing today? Welcome to the show. It's another week here in Ono Land. It's August 28th. It's a Monday, and we're gonna have this week is Hotel Week, where we're gonna be tasting coffees from different hotels that I've gathered along the way. One of the things I'm going to tell you now is that Wednesday we will not be having a live stream only because I have to take my aunt to the hospital for her checkup with her doctor. That has to happen in the morning, and so that will interfere. So we will do live streams Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So set your schedule. So how you all doing? How was your weekend? Anything good? This past weekend I went to on Saturday. Matt and I went down to the 5th anniversary of Vent Coffee Roasters. They had a little coffee fest, which turned out to be a really wonderful time. Really enjoyed myself. You know, she asked me, Sarah, who was my general manager at one point and worked for me for many years, was my right-hand person. And she called me up a couple weeks ago and she was like, hey, we're doing this thing. Would you be interested in participating? We're having a cold brew competition where we've asked different roasters from the area to come and bring cold brew for them to sample out and let the people choose which is their favorite. So myself, Matt from Park and Perk, and from Sophomore Coffee, of course, Sarah had Vince set up there. Ceremony Coffee came up, Baltimore Coffee and Tea, Bean Bro came out, and a couple others that unfortunately I wasn't able to taste a couple of the other companies' coffee because we were really busy. Like we probably had about good 150 to 200 people come through to taste the coffee. We were constantly getting out coffee, constantly talking about it. And since I haven't really worked in a retail environment in 2 years, it was a little bit of catch up because, it's like, we were using the Perla Negra, which is the one, this coffee here that we were talking about last week. And the Perla Negra, of course, is a anaerobic processed coffee. So it's a red Catuai that we pulp, put in the bladders, and reduce the oxygen environment to create kind of an anaerobic environment that promotes malolactic fermentation. Well, finally starting to get it smooth again. That helps to, of course, convert the malic acids into lactic acids, which also gives a sweet milkiness to the coffee. And something that the Mirish family produces for us every year since about 2014, 2015, somewhere right around there. So it's really a deliciously sweet and creamy coffee. I still have some of it here. But yeah, so that was what we were doing. So how's everything going? Today we're going to be, like I said, we're talking about coffees from hotels. And I think hotel coffee is an interesting world that's filled with a lot of bad coffee, just really unenjoyable, uninspiring. Like it's really for those, in many respects, it's really for those that just want to get up in the morning and get some kind of caffeine to get themselves rolling. And I think that's what a lot of hotel chains will go for, is like just whatever, without necessarily giving it too much thought. But I can't say that it's solely malicious that way. I mean, I have worked with some of the large hotel chain corporations over the years, just trying to help them select coffees for their programs. And there's a lot of factors that goes into these kind of companies. And so one of the things I remember, one of the national FB directors from one of the big chains that you all have heard about, he was telling me, I wish we could go for the story that you guys go for, because he knows what I do normally. So this is when I was doing consult. Well, this was for a consulting gig, and so he was telling me that, hey, I really like what you're doing as far as my coffee program, working with farmers, trying to buy high quality coffee, helping with development. And he said, the difficult part is that, we have such, they have such requirements. They have requirements for flavor profiles, for supply chain issues. And a lot of that is supply chain issues kind of thing, as well as volume, right? And they want, like, whereas I at Spro will delve into really small quantities of coffee that are really beautiful and esoteric, and we can offer those to our guests. A larger hotel chain, even, and we're not talking about just like the motel chains or the mid-range chains. I'm talking about, like, these are like well-regarded higher end chains, but they still have similar issues where they have to meet certain goals and certain criteria. And I remember one guy was telling me, I wish we could have that story. So he said, if you could if you can find me a producer that can meet our needs and has a great story like that, we would love to feature that as part. And of course, part of it's coffee quality, part of it's also marketing, right? And so he said we would love to feature that. But the beautiful stories, tend to come from smaller farmers that that will be unable to fulfill the needs of this kind of order. So it's a very interesting path that we've been looking at for many years now. But anyway, not to disparage or prop up either way, just more about these are the realities of what's happening in hotel chain coffee system, or hotel chain coffee chain system, something like that. Anyway, so today's coffee is from Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, and I picked this up, I think, at the Hyatt in California when I was out there, actually almost a year ago. But these coffees are all very much, they were roasted a year before, they were packaged a year before. Any kind of variance that we're going to see in the first 2 months has been negated because it's just the supply chains are long. Like, for example, when you buy coffee from Starbucks or most of the chain companies, you look at the bag and you look at the use by date, and it usually is about 6 months from when you're looking at it, more or less. That means that it was roasted 6 months prior, because it usually takes their supply chain that long for it to go from roasting to packaging and through the distribution cycles, right? So it's not unusual, is really what I'm saying. So, but today we're using this. This is a rainforest blend. And by the way, if I sound a little bit off, it's because my air conditioning was running really heavy last night, and now I have the sniffles. So if I sound a little bit nasally, that's why. But anyway, here is the rainforest blend, single cup coffee pod, and it's 30% Rainforest Alliance certified. Oh, that's interesting. 30% Rainforest Alliance certified coffee. Passion for coffee and tea. Since 1963. We believe in buying from the best estates and small farms leads to the very best coffee. We travel to farms and private estates in East Africa, Latin America, and the Pacific, using only the top 1% of the Arabica beans found at altitudes up to 6,000 feet. This results in a more concentrated flavor. And I don't know, is that true? Maybe. I mean, we all theoretically buy from the top 1%, and if everybody's buying from the top 1%, who's buying the rest of the 99%? So I don't know. There's probably some. That's why 30% Rainforest blend. What's the other 70? Probably something more approaching commodity. Now, here's one thing about coffee farms: it's not like there's coffee farms that produce the high-end specialty, and there's coffee farms that produce the commercial. Like, there certainly are a lot of commercial producers, but the reality is that even the specialty coffee farms produce the gamut, the range of coffees, from super high quality specialty coffee strictly for export to what aficionados may consider the dregs that are sent to the local markets or the prisons or military. Years ago, when I was on my first trip to Ethiopia, I was sitting at we were at the East African Fine Coffee Conference, and I was brand new to it. I was still new. I was within 5 years. Actually, my 5th year in the business. It was 2007, and I remember, and that's the thing. When you start off in a craft, you learn a bit. You're absorbing as much as you can. You're eager to learn. Then you learn a modicum of information, and at that point, is when you are the most dangerous, because then you are ready, that you have enough knowledge to give you some credibility, but you also have enough knowledge to think that you know it all, and then you start to pontificate to everybody your brand and your view of that craft. And there I was hanging out with this guy. He was a very nice guy, Dutch guy. He was a Dutch green trader. And we were talking, saying, oh yeah. And I said something, we were really having a nice conversation, getting along well. And I said, people should only sell specialty or in the high-end stuff. And he was like, you know what? Actually, he was super patient with me, right? And he was like, actually, there's a market for everything. And he kind of broke down the different markets, from the high-end specialty to all the way down to the government contracts, to the military, to prisons. And I was like, and he said, everybody has a need and every coffee has a home, no matter what part of the range it is. And right there, I really, had a different appreciation for what he was talking about and for how I was thinking about things. And so, so since that time, my stance on being hardcore has probably softened consistently since 2007. Anyway, so let's get into this. This coffee is a pod coffee. Pod coffee. And we're going to take this, we're going to weigh it out, we're going to see how much does this pod weigh, and we're going to figure out how much water should we actually be using. So let's tear it open. What kind of aroma is we getting? Oh, a little bit toasty, roasty, burnt. Not so pleasant. But I guess, what are we going to expect? So let's take the pod. Oh, there's one pod, fairly pod. There's, what's there to say about a pod? Okay, let's weigh it out. 9 grams, and that includes the weight of the paper. I don't know how much the paper weighs, but let's say if we go over here and we look at this paper filter, which it probably doesn't weigh more than that. This paper filter already weighs 2 grams. We're talking 9 grams. So let's say it weighs 8 grams. Now this will typically go in. So typically your hotel room will give you a pod machine that you will use, and they'll give you some kind of cup. Usually it's a 10 or 12 ounce cup. And you hit the pod button and it brews the 10 to 12 ounce coffee into it. Right? 10 to 12 ounces of water to make your coffee. And invariably, because if we follow our ratio of 2 grams for every finished ounce, if you have 12, let's say you have 10 ounces, right? What we want to see is 20 grams of coffee. So this is less than half of the ideal dosage. Now, I'm presuming that this is fairly finely ground in here. Just by feeling it, it all feels very smooth and consistent. Like with more coarse ground, we would feel those coarse, pebbly textures, but I'm not feeling that. So while this is designed to be pushed through in a pod machine, and I do have a pod machine somewhere in the building, we're not going to use that. We're just going to use a nice immersion brewing in this Yama thing, pouring thing. Why? Because it's just going to immerse. It's just going to sit there and immerse and immerse and immerse. I could use the French press, but then I was thinking, well, I don't need the press part, so we're not going to do that. I'm just going to use this. Be simple, easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out by adding 300 grams, which is more or less. Oh no, sorry. Let's rewind that. What it says is this: we're going to presume 8 grams in this packet, right? So 8 grams divided by 2 is 4. That seems ridiculous. This should be 4 ounces of water. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, add 4 ounces of hot water. Heat that back up. Actually, I'm going to bring it to a boil, which will be much hotter than a pod machine. And a pod machine may only deliver water at 170, 180, 190 degrees. But we're going to give it like something pretty heavy duty. And we're going to immerse it and let it come to, we'll see what happens at the 4 ounce mark. And then we're going to add up to the 10 ounce mark. just to see the difference. So let's get our, so you see this is our trusty gamma. I'm just going to put that in here. Great. We're going to tear this out. Now let's see, 4 ounces. 4 ounces. 4 ounces in grams. I would have done this before the show, but I didn't take the package out. So 114 grams. So that's what we're going to add. Okay, and then we're going to do 4 minutes. So what we're trying to do, and this is definitely not simulating the way that you would have it in the hotel environment. The hotel environment is going to be much, there's be a greater disadvantage doing it this way. All right, so let's just pour it on, and we're going to start our timer. 116 grams. Oh. You know, Rainforest Certified, the aroma coming off of it is rough and harsh and just not very pleasing. And that's from a guy that has kind of the sniffles. All right, so 20, 30 seconds. I'm going to give it a little bit of a, a little bit of a swirling action here to encourage flow through the grinds, although this is really probably unnecessary. So if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them. Oops. Feel free to drop them here. All right, we're just going to let that steep for a good 4 minutes so I don't really get that sabor out of the coffee. You know, one thing I try to do is I try not to get too, I try not to let preconceived notions, it's hotel coffee. So it's like, oh, okay, that's going to be bad. Right? I try not to think too much of it. Or I smell, oh, it smells kind of rough. It's going to be bad. I try not to get too much into that kind of thinking. The nice thing for some of the later coffees this week is that there are more, I have more of it, of some of them. So we can go with greater quantities of coffee to get more, closer to the ideal brew ratio. I mean, this is still the ideal brew ratio because it's, it is 4 ounces total brew to 8 grams of coffee. So we should get a good representation of what the coffee really should taste like. And then we're going to add some more water to give it a representation of what the coffee will taste like in a hotel environment. Hey, Dan, good to see you. How you doing? Do you think airlines have slightly different taste profile requirements given that taste buds react differently in high? Yes, I would presume that they do. I'm presuming, and then, here's the reality. I don't really drink coffee on the airplane. Maybe once in a while. And I'm not intending as a flex, but I travel quite a lot. So every once in a while, I will get an upgrade to first class or business class. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. It happens infrequently. And even amongst my personal friends who think that I fly around the world in first class, the amount of times I fly in first class or in economy versus upper levels is far greater than most people think. But that being said, the times that I have had coffee in flight is usually when I'm having some kind of dessert. And it's been, I mean, I think you have to set your expectations. And I don't have very high expectations for the kind of coffee that I would prefer to have. So it's pretty good. It's decent. Maybe put a little cream and sugar. I fly a lot with United, so it used to be Starbucks a lot. And I do believe that this is something maybe I should look into and see if I can get some contacts to talk to me about this. But I would imagine, and I do believe that they do use a higher bean to water ratio in the aircraft because of what you're exactly saying. The higher you fly, the more the duller your sensitivities are, especially your taste buds. So, and I haven't really tried this in person. Like, like do I take a meal and then save it for the to try at home later? That would be interesting. But to see if the salt content really is higher. But yeah, I mean, I imagine that's definitely something that they're doing. Oh, and you like that one Valdez apron? Thank you, thank you. I'm glad you like it. This one was gifted to me by the Juan Valdez people. They asked me to come down to do their Brewers Cup in 2017. We did it at the Parque del Cafe in Armenia, Candil area, and it's a if you have the chance to go, it's an amusement park dedicated to coffee. Right? It's like coffee rides, coffee roller coasters, coffee attractions, coffee, and they had the event there that one year, and it was really, really wonderful. They were really, really nice. They actually asked me to come down on my birthday. They didn't know that, but they found out later, and they were really, really. They had a little party for me, and they gave me this. Oh, this is the apron that they give out to the judges. So a lot of times at competitions, they give people aprons, the judges aprons to use during the competitions. And it is, to be honest with you, blah, 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 blah. 5 minutes now. Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that. I'm blabbing away here. Let's do this. We're going to pour out just a little bit. We're going to now have 88 grams left. We'll come back to that in a moment. Yeah, definitely harsh on the nose. So, to me, the nose is rough, harsh. Muddy, earthy. There is a little bit of sweetness. It's not as bad as I was expecting it to be. Not great. Kind of like earthy, it's like they took a little bit of coffee that is CBB damaged and mixed it in there. That's where that kind of like muddiness comes from, but it's not too much. This must be a low quantity because it's just a little bit. Right? Could be some Papua New Guinea in there as well because that earthiness. All right, so let's move on to trying a little bit more. We're gonna take this up, this 88. We're gonna take it up to 250, which should give us an approximation. I will leave that 231 and let it sit for a couple more moments just to make sure that they are mixed together. So I'm going to hold on to this, put that there. And so back to this apron. They give us these apron as judges, and it's actually a nice one. Some of them are really nice. Like this one is denim with some, I don't know if this is not, oh no, it's not leather. It's some kind of naga hide or something. But I thought it was kind of attractive. So the ones that I'm wearing on the show, on this show, have been the ones that I think are a little bit nicer. Well, the Mirish one is, that was a dedication to Leon. Last week we were doing El Salvador, had some burlap pockets, very with the pretty colors. That was from a friend of mine who runs the Consejo in San Salvador, Paola. Very nice. And then there's a couple other ones that we have that I think are really nice. And after that, it's just more simple, like all like cotton with some kind of either embroidery or screened on logo. All right, let's try the next one. So this is the one that's more approximating what you're going to get if you were to brew this in the actual hotel room. And it's relatively clear, lighter because the concentration is lower of coffee to water. The nose is a little bit diminished because there's less of it. That's pretty much nondescript. And we're not even at 10 ounces. Um, that is very light, very neutral, very approachable. Like if you were to get this, like there's really little you could say that was like, oh, that's terrible. But this you can, because this has the proper brew ratio. This we can start to see where there are defects, where there are issues. Very apparent here. Whereas on this much more diluted brew, actually downright pleasant. And if you were to mix sugar and cream into this, like a lot of people will, I don't even know how they taste the coffee in this. Like I barely taste the coffee in this. Like there's enough coffee taste in here to give me the essence of coffee, but not to give me a satisfaction of coffee. Do I look soft? Is the focus soft? Looks kind of on the camera monitor. Looks kind of all right. On the computer monitor, I don't know. All right. Well, that's this coffee bean and tea leaf rainforest blend coffee that you get in the hotel rooms. It is, at the strength that you'll drink it in the store, it's not bad. It's very like palatable. It's very benign. It's very easy to drink. If you were to drink it but if you were to brew it to a more typical industry ratio where you can taste the coffee, it's a little bit more disappointing. Wow. All right. I guess that's good for the moment. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow. We won't be here Wednesday because I take my aunt to a doctor's appointment. But tomorrow we'll be back 10 a.m. and we'll be doing another hotel coffee. If you have any questions or comments and you're watching the replay, drop them down below. Otherwise, we'll be back again soon. Hope you have a great day and enjoy the week. And see you next time.